was so young that it was hard for me to really accurately register what exactly was going on. In the moment, it was just fun. It was just a wild ride to be on. I felt loved and appreciated. I'm a people-pleasing personality, so it felt good. You were just thrown into this whirlwind that lasted years. That is what developed me placing value in the wrong things for me that only were going to end up breaking my heart. In the moment, I was totally fine with it because it was all positive, playing a role, and that's what I needed to do to maintain playing this role. It's a lot easier to maintain a body that looks like that when you're 17, 18, 19 years old. It really just had a massive effect on my self-esteem, which caused me to never want to leave my house. It only got worse. I definitely suffered with body image issues in recent years. That probably was a massive part of it. I just always felt the need to be perfect.
It's Mayim Bialik's breakdown. She's gonna break it down for you, because you know she knows a thing or two. And now she's gonna break down. It's a breakdown. She's gonna break it down.
Hi, I'm Mayim Bialik.
And I'm Jonathan Cohen.
And welcome to our breakdown. This is the place where we break things down so you don't have to. This is exciting because today we are breaking down two people with the same first name who happen to be married to each other. That's right, folks. Taylor Lautner and Taylor Lautner. The first Taylor Lautner is an American actor known for his role as Jacob Black in one of the world's biggest movie franchises, the Twilight series. He also was in The Adventures of Shark Boy and Lava Girl and has done a ton of other things. But with his wife, who's also named Taylor, he has a mental health podcast called The Squeeze. And his wife, Taylor, who goes by Tay, is a mental health speaker and activist. She's also a nurse. And she worked through the height of the COVID pandemic, and she ended up leaving her job due to depression and anxiety and post-traumatic stress disorder. But together, they have started this podcast called The Squeeze, which I've been on. And we're very excited to get to speak to both of them.
If people don't know the Twilight series because they didn't read the news for a while, I think it's appropriate to say that it was like a massive international phenomenon where grown people were like sleeping on the street just for a chance to be at the premiere. Like it was crazy.
It was a real, it was actually, social media was still kind of newish. And the reason I remember this is I was invited to the premiere of Breaking Dawn. My kids were like just old enough that I could leave them to like go for a premiere. I had never read the books. I didn't know anything about this. I was living under a Big Bang Theory rock. I had no idea. And I got all dressed up and we did like a vamp lip, not knowing that the person who did my makeup knew what I was going to. And I wore all black and like it was very kind of goth. Anyway, I go there and there's like people sleeping on the street for weeks. They left their children back home with the papa so that they could sleep on the street. It was madness. I think it was the largest premiere I'd ever been to, but social media was like still kind of a newish thing, but it was a global, it was a phenomenon. People were insane. And you were either a vampire person or you were a werewolf person. And I went to this premiere. I literally think I went alone and I just like had my popcorn and I had the best time. I was like, this is a fascinating movie. I loved it. Like, it's not like, oh, high complicated drama. Like it's got like a little soap opera feel to it, but like the acting is fun. Like Kristen Stewart, she's pouty and I loved it. And like it's a love triangle and the effects are great. I was just eating my popcorn. I had a great time. It was great.
From that series, Taylor is launched into a massive global stardom. His entire life changes. He's on the cover of Sports Illustrated. He's an international sex symbol, which has a lot of complication. People think, oh, that would be great, but it has a dark side to it as well. And this interview gets into, even beyond that, it gets into really fascinating aspects of being a couple, what his life is like with Taylor. Also, the other Taylor,
yeah, like, should we talk about? He dated Taylor Swift. He was on stage when Kanye came up and stole the mic. He's going to talk all about it. And he talks about his relationship with his body, how it changed from the time when the whole world was looking at it to the time where he's at now, where he's the one looking at it and his wife's the one looking at it. Do you think his wife thinks his body is perfect? I ask it. I ask a lot of things in this interview because they're so sweet. They're so nice. They talk a lot about their relationship, why they started a podcast together, what it's like to work together. And they're very reflective about the other and how they relate with the outside world. It's a really, really fun interview. Let's welcome to the breakdown, Taylor and Taylor Lautner.
Break it down.
Thank you.
It was really, really fun to get to be on your podcast. And especially because we are, I consider us cousins in the podcast universe, in that
Yes.
we're in the family of, doing podcasts to talk about difficult things in the mental health and well-being space. And you both, Tay in particular, you have been incredibly vulnerable in even wanting to start a podcast because of, this really specific experience that you went through, which we'll get to. But I'm going to start with an obvious question because you're both named Taylor.
Is the tree real? That's the obvious question. Is the
We
tree
actually
real?
have had quite a few people ask us, or think it is real.
Yeah.
It sadly is not.
It's a very realistic looking fake lemon
Yes.
tree.
We do have some real lemon trees outside, but sadly there's no sunlight in this room. So
Sorry.
yeah.
Well, that was not my question, but
I think we should get a tree, Mayim. That's the real takeaway.
we could have a Christmas tree year round because I don't have a Christmas tree at Christmas time, but it could just live here year round.
The rest of the year.
Have a little
Yeah.
Christmas tree. Jonathan is already trying to do what you do on your podcast so well, which is be casual and act like normal people. And I usually jump right into the questions like we're in a war zone and I need to interview you about what's going on, boots on the ground.
Straight to it. Why not?
Jonathan, have I acted like a normal person enough?
You have a list. No one will distract you from that list. Everyone get out of the way. Let's go.
I'm sure it's happened other times in the history of the world that people with the same name get married. Tay, you go by Tay all the time, or just for like these purposes when people have to talk to both of you in one room?
Yeah, both. I did normally go by Tay.
Okay.
Like before we started dating. So, and then but he also kind of did too.
Yeah,
That's,
really. I
oh,
was the
dear.
one who took a loss.
I know.
Because we both kind of did go by. Well, I mean, just like for me, it was a nickname. Like my close friends, and sister, family, they'd call me Tay. But now we kind of had to lose that, and she's just Tay, and I'm Taylor, or boy Tay and girl Tay.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. That sounds like your dolls. Like, I would like to order the boy
Tay.
Tay.
G-Tay?
We've gotten that, or BT and GT as
Or just
become-
boy and girl.
or boy and girl.
Okay, that's also taking it to a different level.
Yeah. Our friends will call us like, I'm just girl. I feel like even when we're not with him, they're like, girl, what do you want? And it's just like it stems from
I
girl
mean,
to
have
I
you-
don't know.
I hope that you're both comfortable with your gender and sexual identity because this could get really complicated.
Yes. Thankfully, we're good there.
Okay. So the other thing that's Taylor adjacent, you dated Taylor Swift, which first of all is like everybody needs to know because I had forgotten this in history. You dated Taylor Swift, but everybody needs to realize that was another Taylor you dated.
I know. There's been a lot of Taylors.
Did she go by a Taylor?
Yeah.
Were you Tay then?
I mean, not really. No.
So you were just
I
both
mean,
Taylor.
Yes. And we did
So
a
someone
movie
shouted
together.
out, Taylor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we had to deal with on set all the time.
Is it why you broke up?
Looking back, probably was. And then I jumped right back to another one.
Yeah. So you were already used to it. It was more of an adjustment for me.
Yeah. I had practice.
Yeah, he had
So
practiced.
Tay,
with someone.
you've never dated a Taylor.
I have not dated a Taylor before my husband. No. So
Okay.
this was a first for me.
Okay, another question, because I'm sorry, it just begs the question. Did you date someone between Taylor Swift and this Taylor? I don't know the
Oh,
chronology.
yeah. That was many, many moons ago.
Many
Yes.
Taylors ago.
Many. Been through a lot of Taylors since that
That's
one.
right. Okay, go. Well, you know what? That sounds weird now. Now you made it weird.
Now you made it weird.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that was,
So-
yeah.
Okay, I'm still going to ask, and then I promise we'll talk about mental wellness and also, well, I got a couple other questions. So Tay, I need to ask you a question. When did you knew that he dated Taylor Swift?
Oh yeah.
Like everyone but me was part of pop culture at that time.
I mean, yeah, I'm a big
Tay-
Swift.
yeah.
I grew up.
Tay is a diehard Swiftie.
Yeah,
So
I'm like one of the OG
she knows her
Swiftie girls, so.
track record.
But I also like Valentine's Day is one of my favorite movies, and that's the movie that they did together. So I did watch that movie.
Okay, so this is a question that I'm asking as a person who is on television and in films and things like that. And I just think the whole thing is weird about celebrities. But this is interesting to me because, like, I wonder for you, and I guess we could ask Jonathan as well, as the non-public celebrity person, meaning as like the non-actor person, was this like, oh, that's interesting, he dated someone else who's also really famous? Or was it just like, whatever, like people date people? Because like that's like a big one also. Like if Jonathan had dated Taylor Swift, I might be like, I don't even know, what are we doing here? What do I like, can I write you a poem? Or are you going to want a song? Like what? I don't always wear tassels and fun boots. Are you going to expect that?
I would love to see you in some tassels and boots. I feel like you could rock that.
No, but like, was that a thing of like, I'm a normal person, like you're a nurse, like, and you were entering a whole different world.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm a pretty chill person. So it wasn't as like, I wish I had a better answer. So it wasn't as like jarring, I feel like, as people would expect. But yeah, I mean, I definitely, whenever I want to watch a movie or TV show that he's done, it's one of his exes is his co-star. So he had a bad history of that.
Jeez.
But
took a turn.
I'm just kind of like, I have no beef towards anyone. So I'm just like,
She's like weirdly cool. Like I get like 10 times more starstruck by people than Tay does.
Right.
Like I remember when we first started dating, we would be around, very famous people, and I would like, we just started dating, and I was like a little bit nervous to introduce her to, some people, because I'm like,
you never know.
I don't know if she's going to start like freaking out or something. And she's just like, literally like, yeah, what's up, Justin Bieber? Like, just could care less.
We had met him right when we had started dating. I think it was like our first date. We maybe like sat next to him like at church or something. And we got in the car and he was like, so I was like, he was nice. And Taylor's like, that's it. And I was like, yeah.
And I knew like growing up, she was a diehard believer.
Yeah.
So I was expecting some like crazy fandom reaction, but no, she's just cool as a cucumber.
We went to the Super Bowl before the pandemic in early 2020. And that was in Miami. And that was a little bit of a surreal situation. We were in the Fox box because they were sponsoring it. And there was a handful of people that you normally see on television. And, you had some version of a relationship with it. I find, though, that Mayim gets so nervous in those, really any public situation, but especially celebrity-laden public situations, that she's like, it was kind of managing her anxiety around it. So I didn't have any sort of space or opportunity to be starstruck. You're like, are you going to be okay? And then, Jamie Foxx rolled in, and all of a sudden, that was, he's a pretty big deal in terms of just the movies and cultural influence he's had. And it more than anything is more for me has been a little bit just this strange surreal moment, because like all of a sudden you're like, oh, that person is there and it takes a minute to register that they are who they are. But I find, what I think Tay is saying is like, it's really about, are they a normal person or not? Or do they interact? And sometimes they don't. They do the, I don't see anything outside of this periphery and you don't exist.
It's important to us that the supplements we take are of the highest quality, and that's why for the last 3 years we've been drinking AG1. Our gut and immune health have never been better. Unlike many supplement brands, AG1 conducts relentless testing to set the standard for purity and potency. So many people have asked, is AG1 really the real deal? Trust us, there's a reason we've been drinking it so long. Quality for AG1 isn't just a buzzword, it's a commitment backed by expert-led scientific research, high-quality ingredients, industry-leading manufacturing, and rigorous testing. At each step of the process, AG1 goes above and beyond industry standards. You can trust what's in every scoop of AG1 because it's been tested for 950 contaminants and banned substances. The industry standard typically only tests for 10. AG1 is NSF certified for sport, one of the most rigorous independent quality and safety certification programs in the supplement industry. Taking care of your health shouldn't be complicated. AG1 simplifies it by replacing multiple health supplements like multivitamins, digestive aids, immune support, and more in one simple scoop. AG1's ingredients are researched for efficacy and quality, and every scoop has prebiotics, probiotics, and digestive enzymes for gut support. Also, vitamin C and zinc to support immune health. We've partnered with AG1 for so long because they make a high-quality product that we genuinely look forward to drinking every day. If you want to replace your multivitamin and so much more, start with AG1. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3 plus K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first subscription at
drinkag1.com/breakdown. That's drinkag1.com/breakdown. Check it out. Mayim Bialik's Breakdown is supported by Delete Me.
I think that more of your personal data is out there on the internet for everyone to see. More than you might think. It is out there. Things like, your name, contact info, social security number, your home address. There's even information about your family members, all being compiled by data brokers and openly sold online. Anyone on the web, effectively, can get your private details. This can lead to identity theft and phishing attempts, harassment, unwanted spam calls. I recently found a solution to protect my privacy with Delete Me, a subscription service that removes your personal info from the largest people search databases on the web. In the process, helps prevent potential ID theft, doxing, and phishing scams. So many people are victims of identity theft. I know a few just off the top of my head, and everyone is annoyed by robocalls on at least a weekly basis, if not daily, and spam. Privacy matters, and now that we've found Delete Me, Jonathan and I both rest assured that our private personal information is safe. It's especially important if you're a person who exists publicly, but it's important for all of us. Delete Me's interface is incredibly simple to use. They quickly find and remove any personal info you don't want online, and they make sure it stays off. Sign up and provide Delete Me with exactly what you want deleted, and their experts will take it from there. They'll send you regular personalized privacy reports showing what they found, where they found it, and what they removed. And it's not just a one-time service. They're always working for you, constantly monitoring and removing personal info that you don't want online.
Take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up at Delete Me. Now, at a special discount for our listeners, today get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to joindeleteme.com/breakdown and use promo code breakdown at checkout. The only way to get 20% off is to go to joindeleteme.com/breakdown and enter code breakdown at checkout.
That's joindeleteme.com/breakdown, code breakdown. I find a lot of times that, Jonathan thinks, and this is sort of leads to my first question for you, Taylor, like a lot of times Jonathan wants me to be a lot more comfortable with my celebrity than I am. Meaning like, oh, that person said hi to you, like go talk with them or like go open up a conversation. And, I think you can actually probably both speak to this, for different kind of reasons. Let's start with you, Taylor. Like, what is your sort of, at this point in your life, what's your relationship to fame, like to being recognizable that way?
Yeah, I'm that same way. We have the exact same partnership there because, I don't I never want to bother people. And I think maybe that comes from just going through what I went through, and that's the last thing I ever want to be to somebody else. So I am overly I will never go up to anybody. And
You're also just like a humble human. So I feel like a lot of the times I'll be like, go say hi. And he's like, they're not going to know who I am. I'm like, dude, they're going to freaking know who you are. Go say hi. He's like, they're not going to know. And then sure enough, like the person ends up coming over to us and they're like, big fan. So that's his other thing. He's like, they're not going to know who I am.
yeah, so I do get in my head about that. I never want to bother anybody when I am in those like social, crazy rooms or places. Yeah, I feel like I get in my head and like insecure about it. And yeah, she's always the one like pushing me to go interact and mingle with people.
And he's always happy that I did push him.
Yes, that is 99% of the time.
I want to know who the most famous person is that he thought wouldn't know him, Tay, and did.
Easy.
Who?
Well, this is most famous in the sense of most famous to you.
To me.
Yes.
Right.
Barry Sanders,
Oh,
who is a legendary football player
yes.
for the Detroit Lions.
Why would Barry Sanders have any idea who the teenage wolf from Twilight is?
I'm with you.
No
I would be totally on Team Taylor and be like, he's not going to know him.
Yeah.
He like has his jerseys, and we were at a Lions game this past season, and Taylor was freaking out. He was like, Barry's here. I was like, babe, you got to go say hi. Like, take a photo with him. He's like, he's not going to know who I am. I'm like, this is your one opportunity. You need to go. And we ended up, I think his team came up and was like,
I ended up saying, I'm not going up to Barry Sanders. So I left it. And then what happens is I get a tap on my shoulder, and some guy who is his agent is like, hey, Barry would love to meet you. Would that be okay?
Wow.
And I'm like, who? Barry who? And he like steps to the side and standing there right behind him with like his hands waiting is Barry Sanders.
So funny. And then he
Wow.
followed Taylor on Instagram, and he was like, I can die happy now.
Oh man. Yeah. At like athletes.
Yeah.
Athletes are what does it for me.
Yeah.
Like Caitlin Clark just followed me on Instagram, and
What?
I almost passed out.
Yeah. He literally, he was very excited about
That's
that one.
actors and actresses. I'm like, but
Yeah. For me, it's, I think, musicians. And I'm,
Yep.
Deeply connected to lyrics and, all the sadness. And so that's often a connection, which could be a reference to Taylor Swift, but it may not be. I would never go up to Taylor Swift, in case anyone's curious. She would not know who I am. I tried to get her to follow me when I was on a show called Call Me Cat, because she likes cats. But anyway.
does like cat.
How old were you when you were cast in the first of the Twilight saga?
16.
And how long had you been acting before being cast?
A bit. I started acting when I was like 8, still living in Michigan. And for 2-3 years, I would literally fly with like my mom or dad from Michigan to LA for a single audition, like a Burger King commercial, and then fly right back to Michigan. It helped and was only possible because my dad was a commercial airline pilot. But yeah, that was exhausting. I'm sure much more exhausting on my parents than me. But after a few years of doing that, they like sat me down, and just amazing support. But they were like, if you want to keep doing this, we're going to have to move out to LA. We can't continue doing this from Michigan. Then, shortly after we moved out when I was 11, I did my first like lead in a feature film when I was 12. And then that was a movie called Shark Boy and Lava Girl. Then right after that, I went into Cheaper by the Dozen 2. And I thought things were like looking up. And I was like, wow, this is going to be easy. This is great. And then right as I was entering high school, I just hit a dry spell. And I could not book anything to save my life. And going through school and being somewhat like bullied for being an actor, I just, and not being able to book anything else, I was this close to giving up and just being like, you know what, that was a fun thing to do when I was a kid, but I don't know if it's for me anymore. And right as I was like coming to that decision, I got this like screen test for actually 2 movies on the same day. I got a screen test for. So it was down to like 3 people for Journey to the Center of the Earth, starring The Rock, big Disney movie. I was dying to get it. I was like, if I get this movie opposite The Rock for Disney, this is going to save me. Like, this is going to make my career. And this little like film at the time, it was a smaller budget. That was based off of books involving vampires. And I told my agents, I was like, I really want that Rock movie. And they were like, yeah, but I mean, don't be so sure this Twilight one, it has like some steam. People are talking about it. And I'm like, never heard of it. And good news and bad news. Bad news, I didn't book Journey to the Center of the Earth, but I did get Twilight.
So you booked this film at 16, and over the course of the next stretch of years, this became the really the center of a career that no one could have planned. Meaning, like, you could have done that movie and like nobody would see it. It wouldn't be a thing, and they'd never make a second one, right? But it became a saga. It was a moment in our culture that you were one of the main faces of. And when I think about like this, as Tay describes you, this like very good-hearted, optimistic, it sounds like very, kind of like positive person, you land this role and it really does. It changes your life. It changes the whole perspective that you get to see your life through. And in particular, that kind of fame. I mean, you experienced an exceptional degree of fame to the point that you had, a lack of movement, right? A lack of freedom. It's like it gets really, really big and then your life gets really, really small, right? What did that, positive, hopeful, wanting to find the best, what did that kind person experience? What did that feel like?
In the moment, nothing, or I shouldn't say nothing. In the moment, just like it was just fun. It was just a wild ride to be on. And, I felt loved and appreciated. And, I'm a people pleasing personality. So it felt good. But I think I was so young that it was hard for me to really accurately register what exactly was going on. You were just thrown into this whirlwind that lasted years. But yeah, I mean, while it was going on, it was great. But I think that is what developed me, like placing value in the wrong things for me that only were going to end up like breaking my heart.
Mayim Bialik's Breakdown is supported by Songfinch.
Right at hand, play them loud, watch them land, dancing loud, listen back and recognize that's a track.
When you're listening to a song on the radio and you feel like the song was written about you? Well, imagine having the power to gift that feeling to someone with an original song from Songfinch that actually is written for them. Jonathan and I worked together. We created our own song with a Songfinch musician. The song you're hearing now, it turned out incredible. First time we heard it, we both cried a lot, but we couldn't be happier with it. The process was simple and fun. You get to choose the genre and artist, and this is literally what I'd like to do as a living, is just have Songfinch make me songs. Songfinch lets you create an original radio quality song inspired by your own life and the people you love. It's completely unique, personal, and lasts forever. It's so simple. You just tell them who the song's for, what style of song you want, then you share whatever personal details you want about your relationship, and then you choose a Songfinch musician who will write, record, and produce an original song in 4 to 7 days. There's unique add-ons to make it even more special, like a vinyl record of your song, one-of-a-kind art made from your lyrics. Also, you can add your song to Spotify. With more than 350,000 happy customers, Songfinch is proud to be the #1 custom music company in the world. Whether your song's for Mother's Day, Father's Day, an upcoming graduation or wedding, or just to show a loved one how much you care, start your song now. Lock in a top Songfinch artist. Don't waste another dollar on more stuff. Get a radio quality original song that's totally unique to your relationship. For a limited time, Songfinch is letting our listeners upload their song to Spotify for free, so you and the lucky person you gift it to can listen to it anywhere, anytime. Go to songfinch.com/break and start your song. After you purchase, you'll be prompted to add Spotify streaming for your original song for free, which is a $50 value.
Again, our URL is songfinch.com/break. Don't forget to share your song with us too. Songfinch.com/break. Mayim Bialik's Breakdown is supported by Airbnb.
Jonathan and I both love staying in Airbnbs, especially when we're away for somewhere longer than a day or two. Helps me keep my nutrition on track. If I have a kitchen where I can, cook and do all the things that I need. One of my other favorite things about staying in Airbnbs is you get to stay in a novel place every time. You never stay in the same place twice. And it kind of feels like you're home away from home. I know so many people who could be hosting their spaces while they're away so that other people can enjoy them. And a lot of people don't realize they might have an Airbnb of their own right under their noses. You might be thinking my space couldn't be an Airbnb, but you know what? That's not true. If you're concerned about the time commitment, you can Airbnb your place even just like a few weeks a year when you're traveling, especially if you're someone who loves to host. All those little details that really elevate a space and make it unique, that really matters. Airbnb hosting is a way to earn extra money and make sure that your space is being utilized, even if it's just when you're out of town. Your home might be worth more than you think. Find out how much at airbnb.com/host.
Mayim Bialik's Breakdown is supported by BetterHelp.
Many of us are walking through our days burdened by the weight of something we need to get off our chest. Maybe something we need to tell someone in our family or a romantic partner, a friend, or our boss. Everybody carries different stressors. There's big, there's small, but keeping anything like that bottled up can actually impact us negatively. Therapy is a safe space to get things off your chest and to figure out how to work through whatever's weighing you down. I really rely on therapy as a place to reason things out and to be able to figure out if I need to take action or if I need to do some more work on myself before I decide to take action. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. You fill out a brief questionnaire. They'll match you with a licensed therapist. You can switch at any time for no additional charge. Get it off your chest with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/break today to get 10% off your first month.
That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/break.
Can you say more? Because, obviously there's a lot of attention paid to the buffness that you acquired and, sort of lent that role really, lent itself to you growing with the role, as it were. Are you talking about that? Are you talking about, also you were worshipped as a sex symbol, and people talked about you before you were 18 in ways that we don't talk about young girls and should not talk about young people. That became also like a huge part of this kind of fame. Is that sort of what you're talking about? Was that appealing to you? Was there conflict around it?
Yeah, I think, again, in the moment, I was totally fine with it because it was all positive and, I was playing a role and that's what I needed to do to maintain playing this role. And it was great because it's a lot easier to maintain a body that looks like that when you're 17, 18, 19 years old.
That's what I looked like when I was 17, 18, and 19. So.
But then time goes by, and this wasn't until years later, but time goes by and I'm pushing 30 and it's much more difficult to look like that. And, anytime, like, I would just be embarrassed to like go to the beach and like take my shirt off. Like I had that happen before where, those pictures wind up online and it's just like people obliterate you because you don't look like you used to in the movies when you were 17, 18. And it really just had a massive effect on my self-esteem, which caused me to never want to leave my house, and really just ended up rebelling against the gym and anything I used to. So I feel like it only like got worse. But yeah, I definitely suffered with body image issues in recent years. And I think, yeah, that probably was a massive part of it.
Hmm. I'm curious when we kind of talk about expectations, what people expect of us. I don't know if you saw the documentary Quiet on Set,
Yeah.
which, talks about the dark side of, children's television, in particular, what occurred at Nickelodeon. But it wasn't just at Nickelodeon. This was something
Mhm.
that, wasn't also just happening on sets. This was part of our culture, in terms of what we expect of children or young people. And I wonder, just in light of that, like what we know about that documentary, I wonder if you can speak a little bit about, um, did you feel any sort of pressure, either from the outside or even internally generated, a certain pressure to behave a certain way or to live up to what the public wanted or what the producers wanted? Like Kristen's very, very known for being kind of like rebellious and like that's like a brand thing that you can, but I'm curious for you, did it feel like I was an actor when I was that age. And even though I was in a very positive environment for the most part, of course you feel a need to be obedient, like to be in a good mood or like, I don't need to go to the bathroom. I'll wait. I'm fine. I'm not hungry. Like I can do one more take. I'm curious, just not for salacious reasons. Like I'm not asking you for that reason, but I'm curious because there's a person in there. You were a kid in an adult world. I'm curious what your experience was.
Yeah. Yeah. I never, like you, like, my sets, I never had anything, strange, or inappropriate, like, we saw in that documentary. But yeah, for sure. Like I think what it really did to me was, I just always felt the need to be perfect. And a lot of that did come from within. I grew up playing mini sports, always having to, please coaches and, be the best version of myself. And I would, push myself to be that every day. And yeah, in this industry, that's a tough thing because it's impossible to be perfect. But yeah, that was what I was trying to achieve. And yeah, like I said, most of those expectations were set by myself. But it was, yeah, it
It's
definitely.
reinforced though by the environment, right?
Yes, for sure. And then you have a speed bump in the road, and then people ridicule you for it, and um, those moments were tough.
This is a perfect opening. I like when you follow the list without having the list in front of you, Taylor. I appreciate it. I want to talk to you, Tay, about perfection and the standards that others hold us to. Because part of your journey that, led to your podcast and led to you, speaking so openly is you are a nurse and you entered nursing essentially at the time when a global pandemic struck. And you ended up in a position of tremendous responsibility and I'm sure in many cases authority, in healthy ways, meaning that was your role. And what you experienced was what we were all experiencing, but your perspective obviously very different. You were actively responsible for caring for people who were very, very ill and in many cases did not survive. And I wonder, you've been so open about what that brings up for people who are in that position, the depression, the anxiety, the trauma. You reached a point you've talked about where just like you couldn't even like just the protective gear, like it needed to come off, right? I wonder if you can talk about it in sort of the framing that Taylor just spoke about. What did that expectation feel like in terms of your responsibilities? And what did it feel like in your body when it started crumbling? Like when it felt like you were crumbling?
Yeah. I mean, I think nursing as a profession, I would encourage anyone to go into it. It's amazing. But the environment of the hospital and being a nurse in a hospital is you just like, you just go and you just do it. Like nurses are some of the strongest people I've ever met. And like, like we'll go shifts, like, sometimes I'll go like 8 hours without going to the bathroom or eating. Like there would be times where that would happen and you just don't think about yourself. There's patients that, they're dying and if you don't care for them properly, they could die. So it's a lot of like pressure in that regard, because this is like life and death that we were talking about. So I felt so much pressure, especially as a new nurse, to even get there earlier or to pick up extra shifts because we were short staffed. And I mean, everywhere still is short staffed, but, I knew what it was like to be on the receiving end of being short staffed and, not even have enough people to take vitals. And so I would go in at like 2, 3 in the morning just to go help and take vitals. Um, and I think that's kind of the standard, or I guess it's very easy to not have a boundary with nursing, especially during that time when it is like a pandemic and it's an influx and you need to go in as much as you can.
Yeah, when you get that call from your
My manager being like, "We need help, please, can you come in?" And it's like my first night off in like 4 days because I ended up picking up an extra shift. Even just for a couple hours, like, "Can you come
we
in?"
need it. What are you gonna do? Say no? Like
Yeah.
that's what you were dealing with.
Yeah, it was a lot of that. Not knowing like how to properly put that boundary there, especially when it is during the pandemic and you're like, am I being selfish by putting this boundary here? Or is this something that I actually do need to do? And I think my lack of boundary knowledge is, a big reason why myself and many other nurses got so burnt out from the pandemic. Because like they can't prepare you for something like that. Like it's probably one of the hardest things I'll ever have to go through. Hopefully I don't have to go through much worse than that.
I want to be clear. I'm not comparing, obviously, nursing during pandemic to being, a sex symbol. What I was interested in, which I think you both spoke to, in a way that I think will make sense to a lot of people, is no matter what situation we find ourselves in, right? Whatever pressure we put on ourselves and whatever stuff we come to that situation with, that's going to impact how it impacts us, right? The follow-up question I had is, I'm curious about your relationship because I'm curious where getting it right fits in. I'm curious, what each of your respective kind of ways that you communicate, like, what are your love languages? Do those line up? And do you feel like these aspects of the other parts of your lives, have an impact on then how you relate with each other?
Those are great questions. I think it's cool. As of recently, we got married a little over a year ago, and people are always like, "How's the first year of marriage? Like, you still holding on?" And we're like, "It's great. Like that, no complaints here." But I think it's because we've been together for like 6, 7, somewhere in there, 6.5, somewhere in there years. We've been together a while, and we've been through a lot of life together. And I think going through COVID as, even if I wasn't working, just as a couple, is a task on its own. But then, but on top of that, me working, we've definitely been through a decent amount of life together, and had to learn how the other communicates. And so I feel like we've kind of got that somewhat figured out now, which is nice.
Yeah, we balance each other out very well.
Yeah.
Because we're similar in a lot of ways, but we are different in ways. But I think the balance is what has helped us. 'Cause, like we have very different love languages, so figuring out how to you know be there for her love languages and her be there for mine it does take some thinking.
And communication too. Because if we get, in an argument or, we're in a conversation, Taylor knows his emotions and he knows them right now. And he knows what he wants and he's very clear. And I'm my head's spinning. I need to think about this and we'll talk tomorrow. That's how I process things. And so when we first started dating, Taylor was like, well, no, tell me. And I'm like, well, no, I don't know. I can't even tell you what my last name is right now because I'm so flustered. Just because that's how I process. I sleep on it and then I have full clarity or I take an hour and I'm fine. So,
I don't like that. I'm just going to tell you that. I don't like that at all. I don't want that. I'm with Taylor. I don't want to wait overnight. I don't want to think about what you're thinking about while you're sleeping. What do you mean, Jonathan?
Sometimes it takes a minute to digest.
Shut up!
And
No, it doesn't.
catch you thinking that for all those people who are super certain of themselves in the moment, I do think that taking a beat, digesting, sleeping does change how certain you are of something, even if you are supposedly clear.
Okay, so I'm gonna call on Taylor here to give me some dude support because not only did you just say that you need time, you just cast doubt about those of us who don't need time.
He's like, your clarity will change.
Exactly. That is so rude.
Well, I was trying to be really nice about it. What I was trying to say is that sometimes people, and I don't know about Taylor, I think he's probably very clear, but sometimes you might get a little bit hot.
And maybe I need to sleep on it.
And rush to a decision or a conclusion about how you feel. And in time, you have been known to soften a little bit, to relax, to maybe see multiple sides of a situation. And that certainty that you may have had in the moment can lighten potentially.
Okay. Here's what I'm hearing. And I need Taylor and Tay to weigh in. What I'm hearing is if I'm from the Midwest and I'm certain about my feelings, I'm allowed to say them. If I'm not from the Midwest, you don't like what I say, I have to sleep on it so that I forget why I was upset and you put me in my place because that's what people do to women.
I feel a little bit miscategorized.
Okay.
Slightly.
But in all seriousness, so Tay, I do want to ask you, as a woman who does not understand what you just said, was there a time in your life where you felt like you had to just react, or do you find that you just get flustered by conflict and you can't react and just need time to process?
I think I do. I think I've always been like that. I think also in past relationships, I've never had my opinion has never been asked, or I've never my opinion hasn't been valued, so to say. So that when, we're talking, Taylor actually wants to genuinely wants to know what I feel about this situation. And I'm I just don't know because I'm also a very indecisive person. So it takes me a second to figure out what I actually do want. And I also think because the way I am is, if someone does something, I'm always the devil's advocate and I always see things from a better perspective. And so that is how I am too. So I think those two together maybe they mesh well in the sense of we're opposites and we balance each other out. But
the other side of it is you got to figure those moments out.
Yeah.
But I feel like we've done that. I now know if we're wanting to have a conversation and figure something out, that we may just go nowhere. We might just be sitting here spinning our wheels if I don't give her time to process and figure out what exactly she is feeling. And as difficult as that is sometimes, you just got to realize it's the smartest thing to do.
Because also I feel like sometimes, when we first started dating, he would be like, well, no, what do you feel? Tell me. And then I would say something and then it would just make the conversation even worse because I just said something. And then it would spiral it even worse. So now we're like, okay, let's just figure it out. It's not necessarily in the morning. Sometimes I feel like I've gotten a little quicker at my processing time because I know you're genuinely wanting like
Wait, you mean you say I need to sleep on it and you don't wake up like awake in his face? Like whenever you wake up, I'm ready to tell you. That's not what happens? You make him wait till lunchtime?
No, I'm saying sometimes I don't need to fully sleep. Like if we're having a conversation midday,
got
I'm like,
it.
give me a little bit. Like I can come
Just
to
give me my space. She
Yes.
needs like her space.
Got
to
it.
go.
I'm also like, I'm an only child. I do love a nap. I'm an only child. I didn't come from a family that talked about conflict at all. So when Taylor is like, let's talk about it, I'm like, who, where, what? So it's been a little bit of a learning curve for me, but we're getting there.
I hear a lot of positive skills being practiced here that are very practical to a lot of people. So I appreciate how you're describing navigating that. And I think a lot of people can relate to not necessarily knowing exactly what they feel. I mean, I have suggested that Mayim, who has been in therapy for many, many years, will quickly go to an explanation of something. And then I'm like, well, what's actually even more underneath it? And that how we actually show up and how we feel can change even when we start to be in relationship and communicate it. So it's like, I'm wondering if you've ever had that experience where you're like, oh, discovering how you feel, then you talk about it. It goes into the combination of, or the zone of the relationship that is created with the two people. But then that even can shift. Like just talking about it can then even shift to something else. So I don't know. Mayim has said to me, I have a hard time necessarily picking one thing and being decisive. And so she'll be like, let's make a decision right away. And sometimes I'm like, let's just like throw it into the pot and let it simmer for a while, turn it around and actually like not make a decision and see what happens.
Yeah, that's her.
Yeah. Or he's like, sometimes he'll just really want my opinion. Like Stagecoach. We're booking an Airbnb for Stagecoach. He's like, okay, I have these 4 houses. There's this one's cool because of this and this and this. And then he's like, which one do you like? I'm like, all of them, whatever you want. And he was like, no, but pick one. I'm like, but I don't care. He's like, no, but which one's your favorite? I don't have a favorite. They're all equal. So it's things like that sometimes where he's like, no, do you have one that you like? I'm like, no, I don't care whatever one you like.
She's very, very easy and go with the flow. And, sometimes
actually, I want to poke at that a little bit because you've described yourself as indecisive. Is it that you don't care or that you don't know?
That is the question.
Maybe I just don't care majority of the time.
I feel like the majority of the time you just don't care.
Like, are there things that you're like, oh, I really like, I need this kind of English muffin? Like, are there things that you're particular about?
I am particular about having things clean.
Yeah, that is true.
I do like clean things. That is something that I think is undiagnosed, but I know quite a few nurses who have worked as nurses and have developed OCD tendencies from it. And I feel like I have not yet been diagnosed with that, but I find myself getting stuck in my head a lot with that. People will do something and I'm like, I'll brush it off and be like, I don't care, whatever. If they want to act that way, whatever. And Taylor's like, no, and wants justice.
Yeah, somebody will like if somebody like wrong does her, like what I feel like a lot of people would be like, that's not cool. Like, why are you not? I find myself a lot being like, why aren't you more upset?
Yeah.
And she's always just like, I don't care. And I'm like, what? If I were you, I would be pissed off. I would either never talk to that person again or go right up to their face and talk about it.
If it's someone in like my very close circle, then I will care. But I think if it's, not one of 5 people. But then on the flip side, if someone does something to Taylor, then I'm like freaking mama bear. I'm destroying them. So it's kind of, for myself, I'm like, whatever. But if it's someone that like I care for, then I'm like, See you later, alligator.
If this is a game that we're all playing at home, which is which Taylor are we? I'm having a hard time deciding which one I am
Right?
because I have
I
times where I'm like very sort of laissez-faire and I don't care and things roll off my back. And I'm like, Mayim is like, you should be upset about something and you should set a boundary and talks to me about how I should, what action I should take. And then on the other hand, if I'm looking at Airbnbs, I'm more this Taylor where I'm like, well, the beds are like this and it has this amenity, but it's this far away. And I go to Mayim and I'm like, let's try and like process this together. And she's like, I don't care, just pick one. I'm like, you can't just pick one. There are all these factors to consider. And she's just like,
you go through the pros and cons.
yeah, we need a detailed pros and cons list. We need an official meeting. We need a spreadsheet or we need to be in this together in some way. And when she dismisses it with not caring, what I hear is all of the ways that I analyze and try to make the right choice for us so that we have the best outcome are not appreciated.
Yep. I feel you there. Our personalities are confused.
Well, I'm going to call you from now on.
Yeah, exactly. You call Taylor, and Tay and I will be on the phone and not talk about anything because we don't care.
You guys will just be not caring together.
There you go.
But I do want to ask a little bit because I know that, part of your interest, Tay, in mental health does come from a bit of the way that you were raised and some of what you experienced. I wonder if you can talk a little bit about sort of, your awareness of, mental health challenges. You've talked about, growing up, knowing people who were impacted by addiction and you had a friend commit suicide. Like you've definitely experienced a lot of intensity in this arena. Can you talk a little bit about sort of what that was like growing up and how you think it might impact, maybe your personality?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I was definitely surrounded by a lot of mental health struggles. Obviously I never personally, I mean, maybe I never personally realized I dealt with it until, after working in the hospital. But yeah, I had a lot of family members struggle with addiction, whether it was alcohol, like all the way to heroin. My cousin, who still is an on and off addict today, he almost lost his life twice. He was like full life support. So I've just seen him go through a lot of stuff. And, I remember thinking, I think the first time he was in the hospital, I was probably like around the age of 10, maybe 9, 8, around there. Full life support tubes, everything. And I remember leaving the hospital and I like felt two things. One, I think that was the first time I ever felt sadness, like true, like heartache. Cause I remember like my chest hurt really bad. I felt like my throat was hurting. I felt like I like had, cause he was intubated. I like felt like I was having like pains like for him. Like it was a weird feeling that I had never had before. But the other part of me was like, why doesn't he just stop? Like why can't he just, why did he let himself get there?
Yeah.
And I wasn't able to process, what addiction was at that age. And then fast forward, my like best guy friend in high school, he ended up, having bipolar. And he was kind of like on and off meds trying to figure things out. But he ended up taking his life during a manic episode. His bipolar, he had a very rough or interesting upbringing. He's actually raised by his aunt, who's his mom. The family is still super close. We actually had them on the podcast and they got to share his whole story. And I got to learn some stuff about him because in high school, we didn't know that he had bipolar disorder. I learned it after he had already passed because he had developed it later on in life, which was, something we just did not know. But after his passing and, learning more about his story, that's kind of where my like passion for it started. I knew I really wanted to help people, which is I think why I got into nursing. I really loved like psych nursing too. That was one of my favorite rotations. I loved like getting to work with kids during that rotation. So that was super awesome. But I think I've just been around it so much that I really I really just have taken like a love for trying to learn more about it and help people with it.
So is that sort of the reason then for starting this podcast? Tell me about how that came about.
Yeah. I think working through the hospital and then developing my own mental health struggles is kind of what really, because I had struggled with it, I was like, okay, I actually need to talk about this more because, there's so many people dealing with it, not just healthcare workers. Like everyone is having a rough time right now. This is end of 2021. So the podcast, before there ever was a podcast, it was a little blog called Lemons by Tay, which is just like me, sharing my thoughts, still wanting to just help people and share my story and try to give, people a voice to relate to. And then that turned into our nonprofit, the Lemons Foundation. And then I'd probably say middle to end of 2022 when we got married. I don't know why my brain decides to do new things when we're busy, but
You do tend to do that.
I do tend to do that.
Mm.
I did also hear that I'm supposed to, what did I hear on TikTok? I'm supposed to create something new based off of the clips and cycles. Anyways.
Yes, a lot of newness.
That's what I told you last night. It
Oh.
said I'm creative and I'm supposed to do
Not
the new
just
thing.
you, like people in general.
Yes. Not just me. It was centered towards women with their cycle and the clips and anyways. But I tend to dream of things in my sleep, and I woke up one day and was like, hey, I think we need to start a podcast. I don't listen to podcasts. I have no clue how to do it. I don't know how we're going to do it, but we're going to do it. And he was like, have fun. And I was like, no, you're going to do it with me. He was like, oh, okay. Interesting. I knew he would be hesitant to it because he does not like new things. But we filmed our first 2 episodes, him interviewing me interviewing him. And then he was like, okay, can I be your full-time co-host? And I was like, I knew you would want to do this. So that's kind of that's how we ended up getting to the podcast, was all these little things. But I think it's cool because of my whole mental health journey and then me finally going through, therapy and different tools that have helped me. And Taylor kind of at the same time, we both kind of went through our mental health journeys at the same time and got to grow in that together. And it's just kind of become a passion of ours that we've seen, us work through as individuals and as a couple. That is something we're just passionate about sharing.
Yeah, Taylor, maybe you can talk a little bit about sort of your side of it. You've obviously touched on a lot of different aspects. And, my feeling is like, throw fame at any human and you'll see all sorts of things surface, that you might not have seen before or even, thought would, would occur for you. Can you talk a bit? I mean, I know that there was, kind of a stretch of about a decade, where you sort of took some time outside of, wanting to leave your house or having, sort of this notion of, I don't want to say a threat, but, of something kind of looming just outside of what felt safe. Can you talk a little bit about sort of your mental health journey as you see it, and then sort of what it's been like to, to get to talk about it in this arena on your podcast?
Yeah. For me, growing up, I wasn't surrounded by much mental health struggles in my life. But I think it was once I took a step back from the industry is when things really like seemed to hit. I think, I started at a very young age and it was just go, 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 put your head down and, keep going. And then I think once I finally was a little bit burned out and just feeling like I, missed out on some normal aspects of life that I wanted to kind of go back and just experience. I think that is when, I started to struggle. And yeah, thankfully it was around the same time that we were meeting. So I think we just both, I started to notice Tay just acting differently and sometimes just like on random days, just being a little sad. And I remember one day I asked her, I was like, are you okay? And she was like, yeah, I'm fine. Yeah. Well. And I was like, no, but like, are you really okay? And it just like hit her. And she started to think about it. And I mean, that's what opened up her mind to maybe there's something going on deeper.
What were you picking up on? Can you talk about it? What were you picking up on?
We were in the car one day driving.
Yeah, it was just, I had I'd come home from a night shift. I don't know. I think looking back on it in hindsight, and once I removed myself, I think that's where we, relate, even though it's two completely different fields. When I removed myself from the hospital, all of the feelings sunk in of what I was actually feeling. Like I went into a depressive state. I was dissociating really bad. I felt very numb. Like all of those things hit me once I left. And not to say that you went through those things, but we both took a step back from our respective
Yeah.
industries. And that was when we were both like, oh, okay, well, now I can actually process how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
But so at the time, I think I was just really dissociated and was just, keeping my head down, grinding the same thing you were. I was picking up those extra shifts, doing what I could. Yeah. And I think I felt sad during that time, but I think it was masked by being tired because I was working night shift and it was an adjustment on my body, which my body did not like. So I think that is what it was. Like I'm normally like a happy person.
Yeah, I would say it was all of that, and also maybe the biggest part, I sense that you just were getting and going through the days without feeling too much.
Oh yeah.
Whether it was positive or negative.
Yeah.
It just, you always were just here. And I think that is what I noticed was a little different, is like the highs weren't there and the lows weren't there. When I know she's sad, she wouldn't really let herself get too sad. She just always was here. And I think that is when I started like picking up on, are you really okay? Like, I would ask her at the end of each shift and, are you okay? Just about the last 24 hours. But this was the first time that I was asking, like, no, not like last night's shift, like in life, like right now, are you okay? And I think it was eye-opening for me too. So we both.
That was the first time I think either one of us had been asked or heard that question.
Mm-hmm.
That was never like no one's ever asked me, I feel like now it's so easy because mental health is such a talked about thing now. It's like, like how are you doing, like on like a deeper level?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, even just like a couple of years ago, I feel like that wasn't like a deep, how are you doing wasn't really a thing.
Yeah.
The conversation has definitely changed in the last few years. And what you're describing is so common. People are just getting by. They're compartmentalizing what they're feeling in order to show up at work, in order to get through the day. And you just do that. And then you try to rest and try to do it again. And over time, we begin to reduce our emotional register. So you do keep the highs lower and the lows get a little bit lower, and we start to get stuck there. And then we forget that we've done the compartmentalization and we just start to feel numb. So really powerful that you were both able to sort of put your finger on the pulse of each other and say, like, wait a second, what's that check-in? Because it requires someone else to reflect back and say, wait a second, what's really going on here? Because you're not the person who I'm used to seeing.
I also want the story to be that Taylor can just sense things about people. Like I want him to walk around the street and be like, that person's not okay. They need something. They need a hug.
The discernment that he has on people and their character and like their, what's the word? Like their intention behind things. Like he has very good discernment, but he doesn't always share his like opinion or thoughts with people. He'll share them with me, obviously, but if our friends are like asking advice on something.
Where does that come from, Taylor? Like, are either of your parents like this? I think you have a superpower and we just didn't know it.
Girl, he definitely does. That was the whole reason why I wanted him to do the podcast with me, because he's so wise beyond his years. And like, he just like, when he opens his mouth, he just spews out wisdom. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I take it as a compliment, but yeah, I don't. It's tough for me to, just start throwing my opinion at people. But yeah, it has been, doing the podcast has helped a lot. We say, I'm sure you both feel the same maybe, but we started the podcast hoping that we could, help a few people out there that might listen. Never did I think that it would end up being good for me personally. And it really has just been, it's been free therapy for us. It's been eye-opening, having conversations with our guests or experts or whoever it is, and really just like teaching me about myself and why I maybe do some things or tick a certain way. So it's that's been I don't want to say the greatest gift, but the most unexpected for sure from the podcast.
I want to hear from each of you. What's your favorite thing that you've learned on your podcast about mental health?
I would probably go straight to Dr. Amen.
Mm-hmm.
We've had him on twice, and he was actually our first repeat guest.
First and only so far.
First and only, yeah. And yeah, he says so many things that have opened my eyes and really like put things into place for me. I'm trying to remember a specific one right now.
He has like so many little sayings, but I know you like the one of waking up and being like, today's going to be a good day, like going into it with a positive intention.
Yeah, he really like speaks into like your brain. Like you need to tell your brain needs to tell you at the start of every day, because it's just, the brain is so powerful. Like, so if you can just wake up each morning and tell yourself, he's like, I know it sounds silly, I know it sounds ridiculous, but if you can just wake up in the morning and before you roll out of bed, tell yourself, today is going to be a good day. Just getting that out there and getting it in your brain will affect how you go about your day. And it will be with you. If the first thing you think is, ugh, I got this to do today and I got this to do. And, this happened yesterday and whatever, that's going to also affect how you go about your day. So I have noticed it. I've told myself sometimes when I wake up in the morning, not always, but sometimes I've just been like, wow, like I pull the curtain back. I'm like, it's beautiful outside. I'm thankful I get to go downstairs and hug my wife and our dogs. And yeah, today's going to be a good day. I typically always do have a good day.
And Tay, what about you?
I think mine is an analogy that Lindsey Vaughn told us on an episode of, her whole thing is, if you tear, your ACL, you'll go have surgery on it. You'll go do your physical therapy. You'll do these exercises. You'll do this, whatever it is. And we need to be treating our brains the same way. If I break my arm, I'm not just, I'm going to go to the doctor. I'm going to get it fixed. I'm going to get, pins in it. I'm going to get a cast on, and then I'm going to go do rehab and the therapy that I need to for it. And we need to be doing that same thing for our brain. When our brain, isn't working properly, we got to take those same steps in order to, help heal it.
Yeah. Why are we not treating one of, if not the most important organ in our body, the same way we're, treating our Achilles tendon?
Yeah.
Like, it's just, it really like put things into place for us, where it was just like, yeah, what? Like what?
When you put it in layman's terms like that, it's like a no-brainer.
Yeah,
You're like, oh, well,
obviously.
why wouldn't I, eat the right foods, like go to therapy, go, not even therapy, things that you can do at home. Why wouldn't I get enough sleep, eat healthy food, meditate, do affirmations, pray, whatever it is. Like, why wouldn't I be doing those things that are going to better my brain?
Yeah.
And what is each of your favorite tool? You just listed a bunch of things. Do you have a favorite one?
Mine's exercise.
Yeah.
I can just tell for sure when I am going through a rough patch, I'm not exercising. And as soon as I start to get back consistent with that, whatever it is, going to the gym or just getting outside, going for, walks, runs, that I notice my life and my outlook on life immediately start to change. So yeah, I think exercise would be probably the biggest for me.
Exercise is one of those things that, there's been some really, really compelling studies where exercise goes, toe to toe with SSRIs in terms of treating symptoms of depression. And, I like to point out that there are certain types of depression where you're not getting out of bed to exercise. That's like a different level. But for people who have a certain level of depression, or for people who are prone to it, there's some unbelievable research showing that literally the endorphins, the adrenaline, like all of that can do very, very miraculous things for your mental health. And it may not be true for everyone. Obviously, you have to find something that you love and something that, can keep your interest. But the fact is, that's, you're not just exercising your body or your muscles. You're not just like staying fit. It's actually encouraging chemicals to flow through your body that is sort of it allows you to naturally tap into some of those antidepressive features of that exercise. And Tay, what about you? What's your favorite tool?
Yeah. I mean, I love going to therapy. So there's that, but one that is, accessible for everyone. I have a very loud brain that doesn't turn off. So things that can kind of hyper focus my brain on things gives it rest in a weird way. So like, like reorganizing something, or, I just learned how to make focaccia bread, and like things that isn't, sitting, but things that are like a kind of like a hyper focused thing that is, I love. Taylor, whenever I go organizing, he's like, that's not rest. I'm like, but it is rest for my, like, it just turns off a side of my brain that is really loud, I feel like. In it, it's quiet when I do stuff like that. So little things like, organizing, I love. But cooking recently has been
Yeah, I get
a
that, because
fun
cooking
one.
is that for me.
Yeah, you love. I'm getting into the exercise thing. I danced my whole life, so I feel like I haven't learned to love to exercise again yet.
Yeah.
I think I kind of like built up a little wall to it.
Same.
But he is really good at getting me to go. We worked out this morning and I feel great today. So
Yeah.
I know it's there. It's just I'm learning to love it again.
Yeah, I don't always love it. I actually, yeah, but I do love and notice deeply the
Yeah.
way that it makes me feel, and
Yeah.
so much more. Not my physical body, my
Yeah.
mental.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do want to ask before we let you go. I do want to ask about your physical body. I just said it. But the reason that I want to ask about your physical body is, you've talked about how much attention was paid, to what your body didn't look like, and then what it did look like. And obviously this was, I mean, seen some of the movies, like it's a big deal, like it's a thing. And, meaning it is a focal point, of many aspects of the story that you're telling as a character. I wonder, what is your relationship like with your body now? What is it like to also be a grown up? As you said, our bodies do different things when we're older. Does working out feel like a recreation of some of that, so I don't want to use trauma, but a recreation of some of that conflict, or does it feel completely separate? What does it feel like now to have, to be in a relationship with your body?
Yeah. I'm much better mentally with my body than I used to be, but I'm not near perfect. I still struggle with it. I still, I'm very hard on myself, and it does affect me, but I have made great strides over the last few years in my outlook on it. And just, it really is like just having to rebuild the way my mind works, where I need to care less about what people think of me and my body, and care more about how myself is feeling, and not just physically when I'm naked looking in the mirror, but how I feel. So it's taken rewiring of that thought process, which has been difficult.
It's been cool because I feel like I've gotten to witness this through Taylor over the years of I was with him when he decided he didn't want to leave the house, we were together. I was with him when he was, feeling too embarrassed to go out. And I, like that to now someone, he's learned, I think it's cool because he's learned to love himself and kind of put value in different things. And I love bragging about him in this regard because it's been really cool to watch his brain shift over the past few years.
How has it happened? I'm curious. Is this something you worked on in therapy? Is it did you read a book? How do you rewire that?
I know. That is a good.
I feel like time, and I think him, this is my observation on the situation and living it next to you, but I think also him removing himself from the industry and being with someone that has literally nothing to do with anything of the industry. That was the first time you ever I think you just kind of shifted where the value was. And I think just over throughout that you kind of learned to be yeah, I am cool. I do love myself. I think that's kind of what the process was.
Yeah, I agree. I think it definitely just took time. And I think taking a step back and not being, constantly judged each, and every day or each and every project or whatever, I think that was helpful. Also community and surrounding yourself with people
that genuinely love you for, the human that you are on the inside.
Yeah.
Not for
that
the
helps.
Celebrity.
Yeah. I think that was definitely a major part of rewiring the way that I thought about myself.
I have to ask because, obviously this is the industry that I also was raised in and, revolve in. Is it possible to be in Hollywood and not hate your body?
You're never gonna be
100%.
perfect. Yeah. So I think as long as
I have to leave, I come live with you now.
I think as long as you are okay, and strong enough to know that no matter whether you're too skinny, too fat, too whatever, there's always going to be a side of it that people are tearing down. So I think for me, it's just, I needed to just know that. And now, it's still, it's seeing mean comments and opinions or whatever, it still maybe will sting a little bit, but not nearly as much because I know that now. I know there's no version of pleasing everyone and, being perfect. Somebody's always going to find a way.
Yeah.
Tay, do you think his body's perfect?
Oh, yeah.
That's all that matters.
I love him.
You two are my two favorite Taylors, I just have to say.
Thank you.
Really so nice to see how you interact and how you support each other.
Thank you very much.
Can I do a quick rapid fire with both of you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rapid fire, breakdown style, with Taylor and Tay. What was your mother right about?
Everything? That's my
Good
first
answer. There it is.
Is that your belief or is that what you think she believes?
That's a good question. She's listening. Mom, you're right. You were always right.
Sorry, Mom, but not cooking. So let me move on from that.
She knows it. It's okay.
Other than cooking, my mom is a saint.
She's
an actual saint,
from
just
the
the
Lord above.
sweetest person ever. So I will say caring, like just caring for us or
nice.
anyone.
Okay, what was your father right about?
Probably something with taxes. You said the rapid fire
That's
answers
fine.
that my brain gives are just, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you haven't asked to take a nap.
I said a fireplace when we were on the stick a giraffe in a fireplace when she was on
That's
our
right.
podcast.
That's right.
That's
right. Yeah, mine I would either numbers, finances or advice.
Yeah.
Location that promotes your best mental health.
Outside.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
Nature.
Sun.
Yeah.
Do you have a mantra or a saying that you like?
And I always tell myself like I'm bigger than my anxiety. It's going to pass. Like, you're fine. It's just your brain. Let it pass. So little things like that are, sayings that I say to myself when I'm feeling anxious or panicky.
Yeah. I actually do have one. And I thought about it maybe day before yesterday. On one of my, I don't know if it's a full mantra, but it's 2 words. But on a coffee mug of ours that we have, it says "Love Big," and every time I pull that coffee mug, it makes me smile. Just because nothing brings me greater joy in life than loving people. If I'm ever down, it's just, I don't know. I love people. And I just think loving big, loving massive, there's no greater way to cure anything than love.
It's beautiful. Who's been your best spiritual teacher?
My first response was to say my therapist.
I want someone to say Justin Bieber right now. You have to say Justin Bieber because you were hanging out with him in church.
No, mine would probably be my mom. Yeah.
Moment of best intuition.
The night that I met you.
Oh, brother.
Oh, that's sweet.
Gonna happen.
You said that one.
I said, pick me, please.
Yummy.
That's very sweet. I'm going to take that. Tay, can you top that?
Oh, nope. No. There's no topping that one.
It wasn't putting the giraffe in the fireplace.
No, it was not the giraffe in the fireplace.
Who are you most competitive with?
Myself.
Myself, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And last question. What do you know to be true?
That whatever is going on will pass.
I'll go with love conquers all.
Beautiful.
Tay, you said something about dreaming the podcast and that you dream things, and I can't end this interview before hearing what else have you dreamed up and have you brought it into existence?
I have done a few things. The nonprofit was a dream. And I woke up and I said, I'm going to start a nonprofit. I didn't have any intention of doing that. And I did that, and that's been one of my favorite things. Same
and that's
thing
the
with
Lemons Foundation, just to
the
be
Lemons
clear.
Foundation, yes. Same thing with the podcast. I have a few things that are in there.
I'm trying to figure out how you start dreaming about which Airbnb you want. Yeah, her dreams are powerful, so I got to figure out how to get that in there.
Get the Airbnb in there.
Yeah, or wanting to talk about things, right away.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Yeah,
we're getting there.
The podcast is The Squeeze, and it's really been so much fun talking to you. I hope people will check out my episode of your podcast, and now you've been on our podcast. It's really, really a pleasure. to talk to you and check out the squeeze. And from our breakdown to the one we hope you never have, we'll see you next time.
It's Mayim Bialik's breakdown. She's gonna break it down for you. She's got a neuroscience PhD or two. One fiction, one and now she's gonna break down. It's a breakdown. She's gonna break it down.
I'm going to risk being that guy. Taylor, have you tried pickleball by any chance?
Love.
Tay, do you also play pickleball?
Okay. Yes, but not.
That's a no. That's a no. I can tell it's a no.
Taylor and his friends that, are
Yeah.
play tennis and are
Yes.
athletes. I am not allowed to play because they get really competitive. But we have friends that I can play with.
I'm so competitive, Jonathan doesn't let me play with other people. Jonathan also does not enjoy himself unless it is like cutthroat, people at his level or better. He does not know how to just play for fun, play with my kid who isn't super good but wants to learn. It's it's a whole other level. This is a couples podcast that needs to happen about the challenges that come up with pickleball and the way that it is dividing our nation.
I don't mind going and playing pickleball with Mayim with her kids.
Thanks.
It's just not the same as playing at a 4.0, 4.5 level where it's super aggressive and that level of intensity, it's not the same as going and connecting and having fun. And I need both of those things.
I'll tear someone's face off, but I also know when children need to learn and want to engage with adults.
Love and pickleball conquer all.